Yeah, it's about you. You're the guest. We're like Johnny Carson. We just make you look good. So
I'd never be brought over from the curtain. Are you kidding me?
Hey, everybody. Welcome to a brand new Talking About Cars podcast where everybody has a car story. And we've got a great guest for you coming up here. I'm Randy Cardoon, who has a very small, and yet I'm not self-conscious about this, yes, a very small IMDb page.
Really?
Well, it's smaller than most. I mean, most of the people that you have there. And it's not genetic either. It's just something you have to build and work on over the years. Do you have an IMDb page? I didn't even look.
I do, yeah.
How big is yours?
I don't know.
We're comparing size, by the way, right off the show.
I know your bumper sticker's bigger than mine, but that's...
Well, that's true, yeah. There's a few other things.
It's pretty good. Anna used to keep it updated, so whenever we do a episode of Gas, she would add to it.
Great.
And, yeah, so
yours is bigger than mine.
Possibly, yeah.
Oh, God. All right.
Well, I make up...
Now I'm starting to get self-conscious again.
I'm vertically challenged compared to you, so I have to make it up someplace.
Yes, you are. And with that, let's move on to our quick topic of the day. The quick topic of the day as we get ready. By the way, did I mention I'm Randy Cardoon? I did. That there is Hot Rod Bob Beck, the man, the legend, who's joining us today from his studio that has catering on the second floor.
That's right, we do.
Unbelievable. I got to get catering. And we're visiting a guy you've likely seen before. We'll tell you about him in a minute. But real quick, this is kind of getting crazy here, COVID-wise, here in Southern California. I live in Los Angeles County in the West San Fernando Valley. And there's all sorts of COVID restrictions and all this other stuff for people who live in the Bay Area. The Santa Clara County people are not allowing, it's one thing, you can't go to a game. I get that. I think a lot of people get that. They're not even letting the teams play. 49ers are going to have to play their next two home games in Arizona, the home of the Arizona Cardinals. That's the big story of the day. So that's interesting. And something else came up. Bob and I, since we don't get out and do our thing as much as we used to and go to car shows, I noticed that you've been going to a show that has a lot of people there.
Yes.
Tell us a little bit about that real quick.
Well, we went to Malibu this weekend, and it's an informal show. It's not called a show. People just tend to show up at the shopping center. And we probably had 200 to 300 cars, and the people along with it, as well as spectators coming in. Now, they were respectful, and there's very few, if any, that did not have a mask on, but the gathering is pretty good. We had all people from all walks of life, whether they were driving a small economy car to Rolls Royces, Ferraris, and so forth. So these people are not as, I guess, mentally affected or worried about the pandemic going on, or it's their form of protest.
And that could be, and that's an interesting point. Malibu is a ways really from places like Huntington Beach that complain all the time. But it's interesting to see how many people will go. And then there are others like me, and I'll admit it, that I just, with all this going on, I just will wait. I'm going to wait it out. But, and it's not to say really who's in the right or who's in the wrong here. I'm kind of curious, and we'd like to hear from you guys who are watching the show and listening to the show. Are you a person that would go to a car show, or are you just kind of waiting for everything to mellow out? And let us know. You can reach us on our social media, Talking About Cars. You could email me at talkingaboutcars@gmail.com. I'm interested in hearing what you have to say, and we'll talk about it in future shows, because I'm frankly anxious to get back and do some car stuff. But personally, I'm kind of waiting until this thing mellows out. I may be waiting until 2022, but the car isn't going anywhere.
Well, we'll see what happens. I mean, at the beginning of this, we were both active in the car cruises.
Right.
Around April, May, we started backing off, and I really haven't gone to much. I've gone to the one in Malibu a couple of times now. they have not been as busy as they are now. But for some reason, the last couple of months, they have really packed the cars in. As a matter of fact, this one ended with the sheriff's department pulling in, blocking the entrance, and telling everyone to leave. But we'd
Nice.
already been there for 2.5 hours. So,
Yeah.
what are you going to do? It's at this point in time, the numbers are vastly different too, from where you live and where I am, as far as the infection rate, the mortality rate, the people being hospitalized. It's like two different worlds.
Where you live is where where I live go on weekends and hang out.
Right.
That's basically it. So
Yeah.
yeah.
So,
It's interesting.
but we're looking at the numbers, and the numbers here are not even a quarter of what they are in the LA area. We're not seeing the same type of rates of infection or hospitalizations. We're nowhere near what you're experiencing. So I think that's lending itself to people being a little bit more apt to go out.
We're going to put up a poll here on social media this week as soon as this podcast goes up on radio.com. And of course, we may do it again when it goes up a couple weeks later on YouTube. So look out for that.
Yeah.
All right, let's get to our guest. He's standing
Yes.
by. We're visiting with a guy. We always say that everybody has a car story, even if they aren't car people.
Yeah.
Well, we're going to be visiting with a guy you've seen before. In fact, I just saw him on Single Parents, a show on ABC, a show I kind of liked, but I haven't heard if it's coming back. Maybe he knows. You all know him as Elias on Superstore. Let's bring him on, the man of few words, because they don't script any for him. Yes, there he is, Danny Gura, ladies and gentlemen. And there he is, ladies and gentlemen, live from the back storeroom at Superstore. The one, the only, Danny Gura. Thanks for joining us, buddy.
Thank you, guys. Thank you for having me. Big fan. How are you guys today?
No, we're good. We're a big fan of you, obviously, and it's been fun watching the way they've treated you on Superstore. Of course, some real quick background on you. I guess you've been an actor for what? According to your IMDb page, which of course we live on religiously because we know it's true because it's on the internet.
Of course.
You've been doing this kind of thing since you were 6.
Yeah, I started out doing commercials in Orlando, Florida when I was 6 years old. And luckily, I came up right around the same time Nickelodeon Studios started there.
Timing.
At Universal. And the same time that Disney brought a lot of their work down as well. So I got very fortunate being about 10, 12 years old. And I had a nice little streak there working for Nickelodeon and for Disney for a long time down there.
Very good. So what was one of the shows we'd remember you on?
Well, I worked on a show, if you remember, it'll be a classic show, and I was on ABC for 2 years at Nickelodeon, a shared show. It's called Hi, Honey, I'm Home. And it was about a 1950s TV family whose show gets canceled or they're pulled from syndication. So they have to go live in the 1990s, the real world 90s.
Yeah.
And it was all about the adjustment period that they had to make. It was on TGIF. But the great part about the show was each week we featured a different guest star from an old 1950s TV show, like Gil Gordon or Barbara Billingsley. Each week we had a different guest star who were playing their same character. So, Barbara Billingsley was playing Bieber's mom on our show again. It was really, really cool and really fun and very unique.
Oh, wow. Well, so was Barbara Billingsley the probably the most memorable of those people that you look back on?
I loved Barbara Billingsley just because, growing up watching Leave It to Beaver, she was always the sweetest one to us. Gil Gordon, who played Lucy's boss in the Lucy show, was just a joy to work with. I mean, these people were nice. We had Grandpa Munster was on our show.
Al Lewis. Yeah.
Yeah, so Gomer Pyle was on our show. Was on an episode. So all these great famous people from old Nick at Night days.
Oh, wow.
And for some of them, sadly, it turned out to be their last appearance on TV in a lot of respects.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But
so what you're saying, if I understand you correctly, is people who appeared on that show, their careers were never the same. Is that what you're saying?
I would say their life was never the same.
Okay. Okay. I just want to make sure.
It was a life-changing experience for a few of them. Let me tell you something.
Okay.
And they say you out on top.
Yes, absolutely. And of course, you've moved on and done a lot of things. Of course, Superstore started. And the one thing about Superstore I always thought was interesting is you didn't say anything for how long on that show?
I wasn't supposed to say anything, actually. I was brought on as an additional character, as a background player, originally from the very first episode. From the very beginning of the show, This is now we're in our 6th season now. We just celebrated our 100th episode. So this is now, and I was just supposed to be like a minor character in the background, but listen, I look at me. I can't be a minor anything in the background. And luckily, the producers caught on to that, and by the end of the first season, I'd actually been bumped up into a recurring guest star, recurring co-star there. So then I was given lines and given my character of Elias was given some background, some history. I'm involved in a throuple. I'm the brother-in-law of the manager of the store. I like to sleep a lot during the day, so they get some things right. Some things are very natural.
So you're typecast, is what you're saying.
I'm typecast, exactly. Yeah, I don't know how. It just comes very naturally to me. They say, "Hey, Danny, can you act like you're asleep in this scene?" And I say, "Act like it."
Yeah, there you go. Wake me up when you're ready.
I commit to my character.
What do they call that in acting? They call that a motivation. What is it? Method actor. Yes.
Yeah, method acting. Right. Right.
Yeah.
Tootsie there, he can dress up as a dress and a dress to play Tootsie all that he wants. I can fall asleep on set if I want to.
That's right. You go to that guy that has the sleep store nearby, and you go to his method acting school. Yeah, just lay down on there, and it'll be great.
Go sleep on cue. Here you go. Boom.
That's fun. No, I'm glad you're having a good time with that. And it's kind of interesting because, I will explain right now that Dan and I actually met. You actually worked as an editor at KNX Radio for years, where I still work. And it was an interesting experience because I didn't know you were an actor before. You know, it's funny. You see people, but you don't put two and two together. And so when I heard you were going on and being an actor on a TV show and you've been doing this, I thought, oh, yeah, and then I just, so you were an editor in news. How?
Listen, it was really a whole other world. It's two separate chapters of my life that I'm both proud of. I actually, yes, have a degree in journalism. You thought I was faking it when you thought I was acting when I was acting as an editor. I actually had credentials back then. I know. I have a degree in journalism. I'm one of those kids where my parents are not showbiz parents. So when I graduated high school, still acting, my dad said, "Hey, congratulations, that was great. Go get a real job." So, I can't blame him for that. It's true, so I went off to college. I got myself a good journalism degree. I had a good 4-year school. Spent some time working my way up through the system like everyone else does, working in Orlando, Tampa, everywhere else. Worked in New York for ABC News Radio for about 6 years before making myself over to KNX there for the following years as well. So, yeah.
And it said go ahead, Bob.
Did you graduate college at 16? I mean, gee.
That's right. I'm only 16 now. Are you kidding me?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hi, daughter.
Hello.
Hi.
This is my proudest achievement. See that?
There you go.
There you go.
You have to put her up on the place where you put all your awards. That would be it.
The mantle?
Yeah, that too.
I'll just hang her up there. That's it. Yeah. That's where she sleeps.
Okay, yeah.
Very good. Very good.
Tape and Velcro works great. Just put them up there. Yeah.
All right. So we were talking about cars and talking about the cars that were in the Gura family when you grew up.
My dad was a big Ford guy. He loved the Taurus, and every year we'd have a new Taurus. So every couple of years we get the latest Taurus. So I grew up a Taurus guy. My mom was a Mercury. I had the competitor of the Taurus there, the Mercury Sable at the time.
So you actually had a Taurus and a Sable at the same time?
I know. Isn't that weird? They went to war with each other in the garage. It was a very awkward situation for the two cars. Yeah.
Did you at least have different colors?
Yes, one was blue and one was white. Yeah. Okay. Myself, I had always dreamed, and I still to this day I don't care. I wanted a Ford Probe growing up. The Probe was my. When you're 16 years old in the 90s, man, those lights that flip up and everything, and the door handles on the side. That's the coolest thing in the world, man. That's a great looking car. I learned later on what a bucket it was, but it looked like a great car when you're 16 and don't know any better. Instead, my first car, I came home, and I remember my father got me my first car. He said, "Come home from school." I was in college at the time. Come I finally got you a car. I said, oh, it's gonna be a probe. It's gonna be a probe. I just know he's gonna give me a probe. I came home and there's the Chevy Cavalier, a 1996 Chevy Cavalier, just waiting for me.
From a Ford family to a Chevrolet.
What? How did that happen?
Loyalty.
How did that
happen? There's price tag loyalty more than there is.
Yeah.
The parents get to get themselves the Ford cars. Me, it's the price tag. It's the price
I
tag.
see.
Yeah.
Well, I kind of get that. Yeah.
I mean, they got Focus at least.
Well, the Focus was too compact. It wasn't a little compact car. At least I could break the engine of my Chevy pretty easily.
Yeah. Okay. Well, that's good. So obviously,
I did have the Mercury Tracer. Do you remember the Mercury Tracer?
Yeah.
I had the Mercury Tracer was going to have gigantic front bumper. Was the thing I remember about that car. It was a little compact car with a gigantic front bumper. Ugliest thing you've ever seen. But again, very affordable.
What was the Ford version of that, Bob?
It could have been like the Probe, where it
That
was
could have
specific,
been
specific to that brand.
Yeah, as Jay Leno said, why would a woman want to get a probe? I don't understand that. That's just like notice I'm not taking credit for that joke. But no.
Yeah. We have a friend that actually races one of those.
The Probes had a short lifespan, though, right? I mean, they lasted about a decade or so.
Well, it was supposed to come out as a replacement for the Mustang.
Right.
And Ford saw the error of their ways and quickly disbanded that and came out with a newer Mustang.
You know, it just showed.
Mustang.
What's that?
You can't replace a Mustang. How do you?
No. Well,
they didn't. Yeah,
they didn't. So they finally got smart.
Well, from the same guys who brought you new Coke.
Yeah.
Well,
exactly.
And marketing being what it is, Ford was probably one of the more interesting companies when it came to things like naming something. I mean, they'd always come in, okay, they have the Probe, and yeah, jokes aside, that's an interesting way to name a car. Then, of course, they started with the Pinto, which means something else in other countries.
Yeah.
So, I mean, you've really got to watch when you name a car what it really means. Somebody asked what the Camaro was, and it basically didn't mean anything. It just sounded good.
Well, they said in the press release, in the press conference, when they introduced the Camaro, when they were asked, what does Camaro mean? They said it's Mustang Eater.
Mustang Eater.
Yeah. So, I mean, it actually was in reality, but no one thought of it that way.
Mm-hmm. All right. So Mercury Tracer. You had a Mercury Tracer.
I had the Mercury Tracer, and then because I didn't like to punish myself enough, my main car that I had for many, many years was my Saturn SL2.
Oh my.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, at least like if it gets bumped on the side, it won't crease. You won't get all these marks.
At least, right. When I drive it off a bridge, it'll float at least, which is
exactly. So that
bottle car glue would fix it. Yeah.
Look, I had that car in New York. Okay, and this is the reason I had it in New York, because when you live in New York, the worst thing to have is a nicer car than the other person has. Yeah. In New York, you want to have the worst car. So this way, because it comes down to when you're battling for traffic and space, who likes their car more? If the other guy likes his car more than you like yours, you're going to get that parking space, or you're going to be able to get into that lane very easily.
Yes.
That's really what it comes down to.
It comes to what's the one where you're going at each other at the same time? It's like
chicken.
Yeah, you're playing chicken on New York streets.
Right. Yeah. If I'm playing chicken in a Saturn, I'm not losing much. I mean, maybe my life. But other than that.
You bring up an interesting thing, Danny. And what is your most interesting experience? How long did you live in New York?
About 10 years.
Okay. What was your most interesting experience on the roads of New York?
That's a great question. The roads of New York.
And I'm not talking about out in the country. I'm thinking Manhattan-ish or something along those lines.
Well, I'll tell you, the things that come to my head right away, being a Floridian and growing up in Florida, is the first time I'm driving in snow, and just the feeling of the snow on the tires, and just the feeling of how I'm going to drive, and then using the other guy's tire marks in front of you to kind of, stay on that path in a sense. There's that little dried out area that the other people who driven through the snow already, you're kind of driving along that same path. You kind of scatter. And then of course, I mean, we talk about in California traffic getting in and out of New York is crazy, getting on and off the island, and just seeing all the different cars that would just line up in all the different merge points just to get into the tunnel. You know, the different directions that would come for the Holland or Lincoln tunnels. It was amazing. It was like watching like a Pac-Man game play out.
Well, the worst part about that is the light at the end of the tunnel was New Jersey.
Bob, have you ever been to New York under those circumstances? Have you had
I lived there.
Okay, well, you lived in New Jersey for a while.
I lived in New York too, but I also worked at Javits Center quite frequently.
Ah.
So, entrance to the Holland Tunnel was not too far from there.
Mm-hmm.
And it was just crazy. And sometimes we couldn't get a hotel in New York, so we had to stay in New Jersey.
Right. And of course, my favorite days are marathon days, where there are, 5 different entrances on and off the island, in the world's busiest island, and they shut them all down so that people can go run around and everything. And they're running around this little itsy-bitsy island.
So you're trapped and no paranoia setting in there. So
I used to have the fear of my wife getting pregnant at the time. Well, being pregnant, she wasn't, thankfully, but getting pregnant in New York. I'd look at it and say, the last thing you want to do is go into labor in Manhattan and try to get an ambulance to try to go down Fifth Avenue with all the traffic. No one's getting out of the way. People don't get out of the way for ambulances on Fifth Avenue, in New York City. They yell at the ambulance, get out of the way, get out of the way. I was always afraid of, like, what happens when you go into labor? You're sitting there at Macy's and you go into labor. What are you going to do?
That's I believe called a sitcom.
Yeah,
I believe.
And they shut down driving now in Times Square.
Right.
So that makes it even worse.
That's right.
That's true. Right. Yeah. Now they go around all that.
Man.
Oh, the joys of New York.
At least you couldn't go left in New Jersey. New Jersey had its fun parts where you can't turn left.
Seriously.
Yeah, or the right turns are circle. You've got a clover leaf.
Yeah.
Instead of making a right turn, you've got to turn, or to make the left turn, you have to go right to come around. And I went back to where I used to live, and the restaurant my mother used to work at was on Route 46, and now that's a turnout.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just, why?
Really?
I know that area well, actually, that Route 46 area.
Ah, okay. Well, see, this is all about cars and traffic and all sorts of interesting things.
Hey, just talking about New York.
Yeah, no, it's interesting because you brought that up, and of course, New York is known for, and New Jersey known for, all sorts of interesting traffic. You think LA has traffic? No, not at all. All right.
No. LA's second. You can complain about LA traffic. The thing you'll have to notice, and Randy, you as a sports guy, you should know this also. But notice maybe as a LA guy, I noticed the merge points. It's not the traffic that's bad in LA. It just seems to be the merge points. There's so many different merge points in LA that's where traffic backs up. I can drive on the 134 for quite a ways, until I start to merge with the 170 or the 101 or something. That's when I start to get backed up. Is that what I noticed?
It's also a competition. Who can get to the merge point first?
Oh, we're back to chicken again, huh?
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
I need my Saturn back.
That's it.
So, did you do traffic in town too, or did you just do no?
No, we're in here or in New York.
Either.
No. I just did.
Is this one an actor, by the way? Does this one want to be an actor?
Well, only when she wants something, when she needs something to.
What do you want to be?
Teacher.
A teacher.
With a million kids.
And you want to teach acting.
She's too shy to be an actor. You can see she's very shy right now.
Yes,
I was going to say something, but I didn't. Yeah, absolutely. All right, so let's talk a little bit about the cars that you have. What kind of car do you have in your garage right now?
I'm easy. I've got a Hyundai Sonata, 2011 Hyundai Sonata, and a Jeep Cherokee that we have. So
that's nice.
Yeah, well, very dependable cars.
You'd have fancier cars if they gave you more lines.
I'd be more than happy to have fancier cars. I always wanted a nice Corvette.
Well, okay.
That's my dream. Is the Corvette? Is the A-Team Corvette? Remember the old face on the A-Team had that white Corvette with a red stripe along the line of in the 80s. Oh, I love Corvettes. I fell in love with Corvettes. The design of the Corvette that's the beauty for me.
Face from the A-Team,
right?
You weren't a big guy as far as the van.
The van was always cool. But the van made no sense to me because it was for a spy group that they were supposed to be, undercover and running from the law. They've got this giant, ugly red stripe along the whole side, the most obvious van that you've ever seen. They're driving around in. So I was always more of just a fan of the Corvette. Always got me.
We always talk about the Starsky and Hutch Torino, And
Yeah.
that's one thing when they cast the car, when they put the car in, they actually have the car before, as Paul Michael Glazer said when he was on the show some time back. He said, we get here and they show him the car and he's looking at the car and going, wait a minute, why is this? We're going to be on stakeouts. We're supposed to be like not standing out. Yeah, exactly. And here we are in this, big tomato with the stripe on it,
Right.
So TV is always fun in that mode. That's for sure.
I grew up. In the '80s. I got the best cars. I got that. I got the Knight Rider car. I got Kit was always so cool, and David Hasselhoff, the Knight Rider car, and the Dukes of Hazzard, of course. So I had the best cars growing up.
Okay, so when you say you had them, did you actually buy them?
Well, I mean, the die-cast models of them I would have.
Okay. I went, wow, you got.
I wish I had a Dodge Charger like that one.
Wow. Okay. Do you still have your die-cast ones? Are they?
You know what? I've handed them down to my son, who's not here right now. But yeah, he's got all my Hot Wheels and all my die-cast cars.
Boy.
Reproductions of cars like that. Yeah.
That's love.
All right. So if you could have a car, Corvette, whatever the case may be, would it be a Corvette? And what?
Corvette,
or what?
definitely a Corvette. And I know, everyone's Tesla this and all that. I want the Corvette. That's all I've ever wanted is the Corvette. The design of the Corvette is just so beautiful to me. Like a 1983 Corvette, the night with the
the 18. The 18 would be a C3, a third generation model.
Ah, okay.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. That's good, right, Bob?
Yeah.
You're the Corvette guy.
I'm the Corvette guy, and I've got a C4 and a C5. So
okay.
Because they finagled with the design a little bit, but I just remember the wave design in a sense. Always
it was the Mako Shark, had the big bulging front fenders, and the rear came back. Yeah.
Everybody has a list, of course, and this is kind of adding to what we're talking about here, of the car one day that you want that's on your list of cars I'm going to get someday. I'm imagining the Corvette's number one. Any idea what 2 or 3 is?
I had my friend had a Porsche Boxster that was just a gorgeous little car to drive around in, and I loved. I want, first off, it's got to be convertible. Anything with a convertible is gonna just captivates me. I love the feeling of being outside. Now that I don't have any hair to mess up anymore, it can go through very easily. So I can have the hair in the wind very well. So the Porsche is always nice, and then probably maybe a good Trans Am. I always like the Trans Am. Was always a fun car, a nice looking car. I love the DeLorean with the side doors.
The gull wings. The gull wing doors.
Yeah, and I know some of the new cars. Some new Teslas have those now too, right?
Yeah, on the big SUV.
In the back. Yeah. In other words, for the back doors, they arch up, which is interesting. I always thought that was kind of an interesting thing. Yeah. Have you ever been inside one of those cars from Back to the Future?
Yes, the DeLorean. I have been. One of those ones that one of the prop cars that they bring around a lot. But yeah, I've seen them how they redesign. They're not very comfortable. The seats are rather buckety seats in there, aren't they?
Well, and they're interesting because it's a different kind of door. The window is not your typical roll down window.
No, just a little
thing. It's like it pops open like a school bus window almost, right? It was like a
kind of
It just comes down, but it's just a small little section of the window.
Gabriel Iglesias was on the show, and he said that basically he got in there and he felt very claustrophobic. It was like, I want one of these. Now I'm inside one. I don't think I want one of these anymore.
No. I see the Porsche Boxster as a dream car. I don't know if I'm going to get into one anytime soon. That's all I'm saying.
Okay. All right. I like that.
I just like to have it out in the front yard somewhere. Put it on some cinder blocks and I feel great.
There you go. Yeah.
So of all the cars you've had, is there any car you've had that you would like to get back? If somebody was able to get you one of your old cars, what would it be?
Ooh, well, that's a good question too. You know what? I miss my dad's Taurus. My dad's when I was growing up, he had the good old 1992 Taurus or so. One of the original models of the Taurus was a fun, peppy car. I mean, there was a real, I remember that was one of the cars that I was first able to drive when I first got my license, and boy, was that fun to floor.
I wonder,
Don't
was
tell
it?
my dad I said that. Don't tell him I said that. But that
No,
was
of course not. No, yeah.
You never floored it, not a bit.
No. I
He
swept the floors. I kept it keep it clean. I cleaned out the floors.
Yes.
He didn't have an SHO, did he? The SHO Taurus?
Yes.
Oh, we did?
Okay.
Yes.
All right, we have
That
more
explains
respect
putting
for
it to
you
the floor.
Yeah. we have more respect for you now.
Oh,
I thought it was just a Taurus. He floored a Taurus.
No. He had the motor, the SA show, the remote, the motor and the rev. Yeah.
That was the one with the Mustang engine, right, Bob?
No, it had the Yamaha motor. It's a
Yamaha motor?
Yeah, dual overhead cam V6.
Oh.
See, so when I grew up, again with the probe coming in, I remember when did they ever actually get rid of the Mustang for several years? Is that what I remember, and then bring it back? Or
No, they were going to, but they didn't. The probe came out. They came out with the Mustang 2. And then the 79 Mustang came out, and it was a rear drive configuration to keep up with what the Mustang was. The marketing department wanted the probe because they figured, that's the modern day Mustang. The problem was no one who was buying a Mustang wanted modern day. They wanted real.
You've got the name recognition and so much history in the Mustang and brand recognition of the Mustang. Why would you want to throw that all away?
You have the millennials becoming part of the marketing department and don't know the history.
Well, and also didn't they, it had to do with really looking back at the past, because so many people really liked the Mustang, the way it was designed early, and everybody liked the old style. And to this day, really, they're bringing it back in one form or another.
Yeah, if you look at the current Mustang, it's very retro in design. It looks like an early 70s, late 60s Mustang, just improved and updated.
Mm-hmm.
What is the Ford Pride car then? I mean, what is the Ford Pride car at this point?
They're leading. They're the show attraction, or the attraction car that brings them in. Yeah, it's the Mustang. Yeah. But you've got variations of the Mustang. You've got the Shelby versions. You've got they brought back some special edition Mustangs, but it is still the halo vehicle that brings people into the showroom. Of course, now, against what we're talking about, they're bringing out the Mustang E edition, or the E Mustang, which is basically an SUV that runs on electricity.
Which is kind of strange if you think about it, because I mean, if Chevy suddenly showed up with the Camaro SUV,
yeah,
what would that be like? I mean,
yeah. And Ford's defending it, and they're coming out with it, and then they're not changing the name. They're not taking any consumer input on it. But GM's done the same thing in the past. When I was involved with them, they were going to bring back the El Camino, but as a Pontiac.
Well, that's because it was being built in Australia,
right?
And they had it anyway, and they were young and they didn't know the background of the El Camino.
No, again, it's the marketing people are young and enthusiastic and have no clue of history.
All right, Bob. Let me switch then. Let me ask you this: since you mentioned GM, where does Saturn go wrong? I remember when I was growing up, also the Saturn with the picnics in Tennessee
Saturn didn't go wrong. Corporate management went wrong. Saturn was a standalone company that was part of General Motors, but didn't utilize any General Motors parts or accessories. And GM, in their infinite wisdom, decided we can make more money by bringing it into the fold and screwing it up. And they did. And that was it. Now, Saturn was supposed to live on, and Penske was supposed to buy it during the reorganization. They made it so difficult that the deal fell through. Same thing with Saab and Isuzu, which were also part of General Motors and were pretty good names and had a good profit margin. But GM got rid of those, and some people say it was because with selling them, they wouldn't have needed the buyout money. Kind of like Ford selling off Jaguar and Mazda. Ford didn't take any reorganization money.
Right.
But if GM had sold Isuzu like they were supposed to do, sold Saturn to Penske, which would have kept all the Saturn plants open, they wouldn't have needed the money, and Saab. But instead, they killed the brands.
When Saturns came on, though, the concept of the family and let's have our picnics and everything, it was so light, it was so different than what you expect, or from how you picture car companies. Could you bring that back? Is it just a dead brand at this point? I mean, can you bring something like that back?
You can bring it back, but the mentality of the auto industry doesn't accept it. It's kind of like the battle that's going on now with Tesla. Tesla is not a traditional automobile manufacturer, and there are some states that will not allow them in because they are fully owned. They own and operate every one of their dealerships. There are some states that actually have banned that. A manufacturer cannot own a dealership.
But that makes no sense.
I know, but
unless they're looking at monopoly kind of situation.
That's part of what they were looking at. But Indiana, for example, there are no Tesla dealers because they're factory owned. And in Indiana, they can't have from what I remember, Indiana cannot have a factory-owned dealership.
That's why we have 17 of them over here on
Right.
the corner. We
Make up for it.
Yeah, we make
That's
up for it. Yeah.
Yeah, and you can have a dealership in a mall where you can buy the vehicle, but it's delivered at a service facility. And Porsche tried that too with having their own. They had the dealers selling them, but the servicing was handled by them, or it was the other way around, where they handled the selling and the dealers got stuck with doing the service.
So who regulates that? What's the thought behind that? Who's in
State
charge?
consumer affairs groups. So they control. There's a what's called the Sherman Act, which was a federal act that determined and designed what dealerships and marketing is supposed to be. And it protects the dealerships, because at one point in time, the manufacturers were trying to control dealers more, and they're independent businesses. So the Sherman Act was put in place, and it has some barriers and some regulations that the manufacturers have to follow.
I hope you all are taking notes at home, because we will have a test coming up when we take a break here. We're talking to Danny Gura, actor, car guy on occasion, and he likes Faces Corvette.
He likes Corvettes.
Yeah, he does. When we come back, we're going to talk a little bit more about cars and all that fun stuff. Plus, we're going to ask him some questions about how cars might fit in with his cast members of Superstore. Hey, we're back with Hot Rod Bob Beck. I'm Randy Cardoon. This is the Talking About Cars podcast on radio.com. And we are talking to Dan Gura, the guy that you cannot keep in the background of the TV show on NBC, Superstore, which is going into its 6th year. So America Ferrera is left on her own, I assume. You were also on another show, Single Parents. And on that show is a guy who's kind of a car guy in his own right, Brad Garrett. He always shows up on, he's a car guy as well. Do you ever see what guys like that drive to work? Or does he ever talk about cars there?
There's always a lot of talking on both shows. Yeah, there's always, first off, there's 2 types of talk on the shows. The one are the car guys, and there are car guys, and a lot of behind the scenes guys. We've got on Superstore, we've got a set designer who is a racer, who races cars on the weekends, who has a funny car. There's a whole racing team on the weekends. So we've got guys who really, the muscle guys who really talk about the types of cars and the nuts and bolts. And then you've got the front the ensemble stars, if you will, who like to have their egos of who's got the biggest Tesla of the week, and who's got the new Model T, and who's got this, and who can beat them on a helicopter and all that fun stuff. So, there's a lot of car talk, especially, that's what guys do. We sit around and we'll talk about the cars. And like, you're right, Brad Garrett, big car guy himself on Superstore. A lot of car guys, a lot of car fans there as well. Definitely much different than what their characters, you were mentioning, what their characters would be driving, that's for sure.
Well, let's ask that. And that's, if you look at the characters from Superstore, Danny, I'm always I was thinking who would be character-wise the people who would have classic cars on the show. And I always came up with 2. One would be Bo, Cheyenne's husband. And the other one would be Marcus, who is the stockroom guy who just seems like a car dude. And he's got like some car out in the back, like an old Chevy Malibu or something like that, ready to go.
Marcus seems like the guy who would have the car on the weekend plans, just hiked up, working on the cars on the weekend. Yeah, a real car guy, a real aficionado. Probably not knowing what he's doing too much. Probably breaking more things than he's fixing at the time. But still, he'd wear the part very well. He's a warehouse worker on the show, played by John Barinholtz, Ike Barinholtz's brother from The Office, from the Vindy Project. Funny guy, drop dead funny guy. He looks that part of the guy who just he's good with a wrench, even though you have no idea what to do with it, of course.
Yeah, and there are others that, let's say, are not. But for example, Jonah Ben Feldman, he doesn't quite strike me as a car guy. Is he in real life?
No, Ben's not a car guy in real life either. He's much too I don't want to say fancy. He's much too proper for that, I guess. So he's got a good car. He's got his family car. Look, he's a father of 2 now. And I see him. He's got a nice, dependable family car that he drives to work, and and is not splashy at all or show offy at all about it whatsoever. And his character is the same way. His character is went to business school, dropped out of business school, but is a real fancy and proper and well educated and well meaning person. He'd probably, what do we drive, like a Saab or it would be nice, maybe a BMW, a regular BMW, or just something nice around the block that he'd go for.
Now, for those people who have watched the show, Bob is going to watch back episodes just so we're up on this. Basically, for example, I've seen a few of them have cars, like Mark McKinney, who plays Glenn, the manager again. He drives around in an SUV because he's kind of a.
He's a preacher person. He's a good old fashioned guy. Just a good American man. Our show takes place in St. Louis, so we really are the Midwest. And he is as Midwestern as they'll come, and he's a family man, and he'll adopt. He has a big adoption of kids. He's a lot of kids that he's adopted. So yeah, he'll have that SUV, and just very plain and very, very honored to have it.
And I think the only other car that I remember that somebody showed, maybe, I believe Amy had, maybe she had a Mercury Tracer. I don't know.
But Amy, that's why when she left, she didn't get very far.
Oh, yes, that's true. Tried to ship that car out and it didn't work. However, Lauren Ash, who plays Dina, did have a pickup truck, if I remember right.
Yeah, Lauren's got her pickup, and she's got the same pickup. And Lauren Ash's character of Dina is the tough guy, tough gal, if you will, with the no nonsense, no BS assistant manager who kind of keeps everyone else in check.
I see.
Excuse me. So, yeah, her truck is very much her. A strong, stable, no BS. Here's what you get. Here's what I have. Truck.
I don't remember anybody else on that show having a vehicle that we saw. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't really show them off too much. It's really just a lot of you know what? We work at a big box store. We work at a superstore. At Cloud9 is the name of the store. You picture any kind of car that you see outside of a Target or a Walmart, and that's what we're gonna have.
Can you say who the car people are that might be in the group, or any of the actors' car people in real life?
Yeah, Colton Dunn, who plays Garrett, the character in the wheelchair, is actually a very big car guy. And he likes to talk about the cars, and he keeps on top of them and knows so much more about them and the specifications and everything. He really has a real appreciation for them. So it's fun to listen to Colton, because other guys will come to Colton and say, "Hey, what do you think about this car? What do you think about this car?" And he's kind of the guru on the set of all of that.
Colton, you want to be on the show?
Yeah.
Give us a call.
So who's the racer?
The racer is Trevor Larkin.
Oh yeah, I know Trevor.
You know Trevor?
I know Trevor. He's got a dragster. His dad was a big racer in the early '60s, and he was. As a matter of fact, I met him a number of years ago when he was the transportation guy on the Snake and Mongoose movie.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and he races almost every weekend, almost every other weekend. He's out somewhere racing.
He's driving a funny car for another team, but yes, he drives the Nostalgia series. If you see him, give him my regards.
I will, absolutely. I'll talk to him next time I see him, which will be in a couple of days. I'll see him.
Yeah.
Are they, just for the hay of it, single parents, are they coming back?
Single Parents is not coming back, unfortunately.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm a show.
I like that show, actually. I don't.
It was a fun show. It was a fun show.
Yeah, that was a very good show. So, all right. So you're basically going to be on Superstore for the conceivable run of the show, which will be another 20 years. And and you'll finally be the lead of the show as other people drop off and they bring new people on. I can see this. This is
eventually they're going to get desperate enough to give me a storyline, right? Eventually they'll run out of ideas. So that's what happens. 19 years in, when everyone else is gone, and really it's just a one-man show at that point of me talking to the wall, that'll be my time to shine.
You'll be the assistant manager.
Everything will be automated.
Yeah. I'll just do all the jobs. I'll just do everything what job there is there.
Everything's self-checkout. You need something off the top shelf? No problem. Go get the forklift yourself.
Right, exactly.
I like that. All right, man. Let's see. Have we forgotten anything? Let's see. Are there other questions? No, I think that's it. I think we got it. Any other good car stories you want to throw in as long as we got a couple minutes left?
Gee, I wish. It's funny because I watch you and I listen to you guys talk about the cars and everything. And I should like, I remember just taking the school buses around and having kids with the car and motor magazines and things on the school buses and reading all those magazines. And there is a real appreciation. You see the Bob's Big Boy out there, the people who really, I respect that a lot. The people who really get into this whole, it's more than just a hobby. It's more than an obsession. It's a real lifestyle in all that sense. I really respect a lot of that. I wish I could do that. I wish I had the knowledge of that.
All right, let me ask you a question because we brought this up at the start of the show. And that's, I know you have kids and all this other stuff, so you've got other things occupying your mind and you're working. But would you go to a car show now, or would you wait until things calm down with the pandemic?
I'd go to one now that took the precautions, that mandated masks, that really, that took precautions and took the pandemic seriously and took the people who are attending the car show seriously. Okay, I have faith that they can be done safely, but it has to be done safely.
Touche. All right.
So you're talking about Bob's Big Boy, Toluca Lake, Friday nights.
A perfect example.
Yeah.
Just get those masks out and wear them. Yeah,
That's it.
That's it. Danny Gura, thanks for joining us, buddy. And don't forget, everybody, remember to listen, like, and share our podcasts to our radio.com and, of course, our video podcasts on YouTube on the Two Tired Guys Productions channel. And when you subscribe, you will be notified that a new show comes up. And remember, when you subscribe, it helps all of us, doesn't it, Bob?
It does.
It does. It really
We can
does.
expand the show. Randy can get his own studio like I have. And
Yeah, we got to work on that. I think somehow you got a hold of the budget person. I haven't talked to him. Hey, follow us on social media. We're on Facebook, we're on Twitter, we're on Instagram, and become a Two Tired Guys Talking About Cars patron on patreon.com. Get exclusive interview clips like the one we're about to get with Dan. He doesn't know it yet, but we'll get one. And we'll also get access to Two Tired Guys and Talking About Cars, and even your show, Bob.
Yeah. Gas.
G-A-A-S. That'll be, you can get swag to that by becoming a patron. All right, until next time, I'm Randy. That's Bob. That's Danny. Having fun, talking about cars. We'll see you next time, everybody. Thanks for joining us.
All right, thanks, everyone.